Hi everyone. Do you think you can't compost because you're gardening on a deck, a patio, a balcony, you have a small space? Well, think again, because today I'm going to show you how to compost in a small space, easy and quick in 5 simple steps, so that you can have beautiful black gold to fertilize your garden for free in about 3 to 6 weeks. If you've never composted, you're going to absolutely love it. It's a great way to use all the resources that you have to turn trash into treasure. Let me show you some of my compost I've made here in my garden. Super easy to make. It's made up of leaves, vegetable scraps, garden waste, eggshells, coffee grounds, stuff you would normally throw away. It adds great organic matter to your soil. It feeds your plants important essential nutrients and adds good aeration to your soil. I add a handful of compost to my plants whenever I plant them in a raised bed or a container. Here's a little worm here, so it just adds great nutrients to your garden. When you're composting on a patio or a balcony, you don't have room to build a big, huge pile. You want to keep it contained and keep it nice and neat and tidy. Now, I've been composting in the Smart Pots mini compost sack for a couple of years now. Absolutely love it. It's perfect for a small space. It's about half the size of the original compost sack, holds 50 gallons of free compost, which is plenty to fertilize your small space garden. It's about 28 inches tall, about 2 feet across, and it's not near as hard to collect the materials to fill this sack as it was the original sack. So I know you're gonna love it for your small space. Let's jump in and I'll show you how to do it step by step. Step 1 is to collect the materials for your compost pile. You're gonna need browns and greens, about 3 parts brown and about 1 part green. Now, your browns are things like shredded leaves, shredded straw, corn stalks, tree clippings. You can use shredded newspaper, even shredded cardboard. The browns are what add bulk to your compost and air to help things circulate. It's also what helps feed the microbes. The microbes are what make the magic happen. They eat the compost materials, break it down, and turn it into that black garden gold. So you'll need about 3 parts brown material and about 1 part green material. Now the brown and the green don't necessarily mean the color of the material, it's just the type of the material that it is. The greens are things like coffee grounds, food scraps from your kitchen, no meat or dairy though, because they tend to attract the critters and they don't break down as well. So I just keep this little compost bin under my kitchen sink, then I throw my vegetable scraps in it as I'm cooking. And you can also use eggshells. When I have a whole lot of scraps to collect, what I will do is I'll put them in plastic bags and stick them in the freezer. That way I can collect a whole bunch of materials at once so I can build my compost pile all at once. Brown materials are your carbon source. The green materials are your nitrogen source. Nitrogen is a really important nutrient in your garden that helps your plants have nice green leafy growth. One thing that's really important to have a lot of, if you can, are coffee grounds. Add those to your green materials. Little tip here, ask around at your local coffee shops. A lot of times they'll save their spent coffee grounds for you. You can add these to your compost pile. They heat it up and help it break down really quickly. After you've collected your compost materials, the next step is to layer them in your compost sack. We're partnering with Smart Pots for this video, and I'm loving the forest green color. I think it looks really nice here on the deck. I think you're gonna like it too. Now, what I like to do before I add the materials is fold the sack over. That way it makes it a lot easier to get all those materials in. That way too, if you don't have enough materials collected to fill the entire sack, you can just fold it over and then fill it a little bit at a time to make it easier for you. First, I'm going to layer in some of my brown materials. Overall, we're going to do 3 parts brown and 1 part green. But don't get too concerned about the ratios. As long as you get about that much in there, you're going to be just fine. So we're adding in some of my leaves. We've also got some twigs and straw and things like that in there. Maybe a couple inches or so on the bottom of the pile. And then if your leaves are dry, you're definitely going to want to water them down. So we're just going to layer and water down as we go. These ones just need a little bit of water. You want your compost materials to be about the moistness of a wrung out sponge. So if you need to water and then mix the water in to make sure that the leaves aren't completely dry. We've got 3 to 4 inches of brown material in our compost sack. Now it's time to add some green. So as I'm layering the green materials in, we're actually doing step 2, layering the ingredients, and step 3, watering and mixing all at once. So I'll add in my materials from my little compost bin that I keep under my sink. And you'll notice there's some citrus peels in here. A lot of people think you can't compost citrus, but I've been doing it for years and my compost turns out just fine. So I've got that in there. I'm also gonna add some of my food scraps that I've kept in my freezer. Lots of eggshells in there, avocado peels, and you notice there's still a lot of ice particles on that, which is perfectly fine. That'll just add more moisture to my compost. That way I don't have to water quite as much. Remember, we're doing 3 parts brown to about 1 part green. So I've got a thinner layer of the green materials here. What I'm gonna do is chop them up with a pointed shovel, because the smaller the materials, the quicker the compost will break down. Now, one thing I do love about the compost sack is the fabric is aerated. So your compost gets nice oxygen, which helps it break down that much quicker. So just do the best you can. They don't have to be super tiny pieces, but the smaller the better. Gonna give it a little bit of water and then mix it up. Time to add some more browns. Now I like to collect leaves all winter long in the original compost sack, which is 100 gallon. And you can see how much more nice and compact the mini compost sack is. Perfect for an urban space. 3 to 4 inches of leaves, garden scraps in here. Looking pretty dry, so I'm going to add in some water. Now, if you live in a balcony and you're concerned about adding water that's going to leak down to your neighbors, just add a little bit at a time and then mix it in so you don't have a ton of water coming out the bottom. So I'm just going to repeat this process with some more greens now and then some more browns until my compost sack is full, or until I've used up all of my materials. I'll put some coffee grounds in here and some more food scraps now, the green materials. Now you want to get your compost sack as full as you can, because the larger your pile, the quicker it will heat up and the quicker it will break down. More browns now. I'm mixing these browns in pretty good because the materials underneath it are pretty wet. They're frozen, and as they melt, they're going to add more moisture. So we're basically looking for the moisture of about a wrung out sponge. You don't want to get it too wet, or it will get soggy and anaerobic. Now I also like to add a few handfuls of finished compost to the mix here. Or if you don't have finished compost, just add some soil, because it's got the microbes in it. Will really help jumpstart the microbial activity. That's what breaks down the compost and turns it into black gold. Just keep repeating this process until we fill her up. Unfold the sides as you go. And our compost pile is starting to take shape. Pouring in the last of the coffee grounds here, so we'll really get my pile cooking. One thing I do like about the compost sack too is the fabric is super durable. So if you do happen to kind of poke the sides with your pitchfork, it's not going to do the fabric in. This fabric can last for years. Got my compost sack all filled up with my compost materials. You can see here on the top there's still some food scraps, avocado peelings, some lemon peels, and some eggshells. What I do like to do with the eggshells when I can, they take a long time to break down, so I like to crunch them up. You can just crunch them up when you put them into your little compost bin under your sink. That way they're all ready to roll. And then I'm going to add a layer of leaves on top just to help cut down on the fruit flies that might come pesking around your compost sack. It really helps cut down on those. You do want to get your compost sack just as full as you can, because the bigger the pile, the more it will heat up. The more it heats up, the quicker it breaks down, the quicker you'll have black gold for your garden. If you don't have enough materials to fill it though, that's okay. It might not heat up, but it will still be cold composting. Will take a little bit longer to break down, and you'll eventually get some garden gold. Step number 4 is to cover your compost pile. Now, one thing I love about the Smart Pods compost sack is it comes with this fitted cover. Covering is important because it keeps the moisture in, also keeps the heat in, But even more important, it keeps the critters out. But you do not want rodents and other kinds of critters around your compost pile. It also helps cut down on the fruit flies and other insects that might crawl into your pile or just kind of bother you while they're floating around your compost sack. So if it's nice and tight right over the sack, and it looks really neat and tidy too. Step 5 actually happens in about a week. At that point, I'm going to show you how to turn the pile so the microbes have the air they need to break down the compost, and how to check the temperature of your compost pile. So make sure you subscribe and come back for that video. I'd like to thank Smart Pots for partnering with us on this video. Head over to smartpots.com, pick up a mini compost sack, and let me know if you're going to be composting on your deck or balcony this spring. Thanks so much for watching. We'll see you on the next video.